Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We're kicking things off live in studio. We've got State Representative Dan Sullivan with us. Dan, welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you squeezing me into your jam-packed day.
Well, you're part of it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You're contributing to it. Let's just get this out of the way. You know, what are you here for? I know you wanted to come on and make an announcement.
Yes, I have. Am announcing my campaign, starting my campaign right now, my reelection bid, and I plan to run for the House again for House District 53.
And go ahead and tell all your listeners where House District 53 is.
Sure, that's part of Jonesboro, Caraway, Nettleton, Monette. It's the northeastern corner of Craighead County.
There you go.
And I've just had a great, this be running for a third term. I've really enjoyed my first 2 terms of serving our District 53. I've had some great feedback from our constituents. I was out at a bee farm yesterday. Of course, we had several big events in the past few months with the dicamba issues, and I met with several farmers all around my district and others, and appreciate the governor coming up to the Leachville area and Manila, meeting with all the farmers up there, and met with him on both sides of that issue. But it's just been really exciting to be a legislator. I appreciate the support I've gotten and look forward to running again.
And I just want to mention, so this is Dan Sullivan. You were a Hero of Freedom award winner at the Calvin Coolidge Awards. That's Conduit for Commerce. There's Conduit for Commerce scorecard, the number 1 ranking out of House members. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, yes, and I think one of the things I'm most proud of is when I have run for election, I've told my constituents what my core values were. And I've stuck to those and voted that way, regardless of the pressure, regardless of other extraneous things that happened. I've kept my word to the people that voted for me. And those that kind of may oppose my vision or my views, at least they know where I stand.
Yeah.
And I've been true and honest to those. We had that town hall meeting just a few weeks ago.
That.
Sure.
Yeah, it's the town hall meeting, and I know you well enough now to know that you enjoy the criticism in terms of a respectful debate and that sort of thing. I thought of that town hall, though there's some criticism. I mean, the liberal media is trying to do this too, where they're trying to tie tragic circumstances, a young boy's death, and they're trying to tie it to you. And I know that was brought up at that town hall.
It was, and that's what one expects at town halls frequently. You expect people to try to make misstatements or to spin a story a certain way. But I think the people were very willing to hear what I had to say, and I think accepted the facts there. And that's what I try to tie things to. If you can persuade me that the facts, I'm wrong on the facts, I don't have the necessary information, I'm very willing to change my mind. But I know what my core values are. I'm going to stick to those, and I'm going to listen to people that have the facts of the subject. And in that town hall, a lot of it was people wanting to express their opinion, and that's fine, and they certainly have a right and opportunity to do that. I got a call from a gentleman over in Black Oak the other day that needed his state representative. And I went over there and met with him and a couple of folks, and he had some significant issues out there with some neighbors and some other things. We talked about it, kind of worked through some of that. When I was leaving, the gentleman said, you're going to make my father roll over in his grave. And I kind of looked at him, I said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, when I called you, you called me back in 5 minutes. A day later, you were here on my property talking to me and offering to help. He said, I've never voted for a Republican before, but I guess I'm going to have to.
And that's what makes the relative spin in the grave,
that's what makes them spin. But, we serve our district, and when people call, and this came up in that town hall, that I mentioned that when people call and need their representative, we don't ask what party they are. They don't ask me what party they are or what party I am. They just know they need help. They call their state representative, and they're seeking assistance, and that's what we do.
Yeah. We're talking with Dan Sullivan. He's announced his campaign for reelection for the House District 53, which is in Northeast Arkansas. You mentioned dicamba. Now I just think briefly touched on dicamba, but I've talked to a farmer about this and talked to folks. So what's the deal? We have a dicamba situation where you have this drift and it's causing damage to soybeans.
Well, first of all, you have great technology. You've got people that have developed the technology to make certain weeds, make the farming easier, less costly,
right,
more effective, more efficient. The technology is there. It's just that the dicamba, there's drift, other things that are going on that can cause damage to their neighbors' crops. So we had a task force. Matter of fact, the task force is already done. You'll be glad to hear that. They've already had their recommendation, and they've completed their work and finished. But that task force, I think, has recommended that dicamba not be used for a year or so until we can do further study. But, the folks that want the technology, we need it. And so we need to further continue to study, continue to develop that kind of technology because our farmers need that resource.
Yeah, I no doubt, farming, it has, gotten, you want it to get easier. You want it to get more efficient and stuff like that. I find it interesting, just the whole, I don't know, not a lot of people have paid as much attention to it. I think it is a big issue because I think like anything, there's a lot of money that's involved here. If you look at the research that's gone into a product like dicamba, but then you have people, this is indirectly related to it, but we had a murder over this stuff. If you remember, last year,
that was in District 53.
Yeah, you had two farmers that got in a fight, and one of them, killed the other.
Yeah, it's a significant issue, and I appreciate the governor's the way he handled that with moving that to the Legislative Council, then to the Agri Committee where I am, and we were able to ask questions and get the data and get the information, and then they made a decision quickly. For the government, it moved really pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And now they're studying it again to seeing what further decisions can be made. But as you mentioned, agriculture is one of our top financial areas for the state of Arkansas. It's where our money is, and it's where our businesses are. So it's very important. I was at Coy Bee Farm the other day.
Yes, I know them.
Yeah, the Coys they operate in Mississippi and California, and they have products in 65 different stores around the state, some here in Jonesboro. I found out that the watermelon farmers have to ask the beekeepers how many bees they're going to bring to their farm before they'll determine how many acres of watermelons they'll plant. New information to me.
Wow.
But it's what you do as a state representative is go visit your businesses, whether it's farming industry, pharmacy industry, hospitals, whatever those are, and visit with the folks, schools and education. Visit with the people that are engaged in that business and help them be more efficient and more effective at what they do.
Yeah, we're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan. I want to ask about this past session just real quick. So, I know you mentioned that the governor was up here, but has the governor contacted you at all about really anything concerning legislation last session or anything like that?
Well, they had several significant votes, and no, I didn't have the opportunity to visit with the governor or his staff on any of the votes that I was a part of. And, again, I think that goes back to my core values. It's clear not only to the governor but to others what my core values are. And if they don't if there's information out there that doesn't sway that or change that, then my vote's not going to change. It's not for sale. I'm not going to swap or change votes over issues frequently. There are times that I will. Matter of fact, Paul, the healthcare debate's up right now, and I've been asked by Director Gillespie of DHS to sit in with a group of legislators and talking about the changes. And Director Gillespie's really done a good job. I've got only good things to say about her. I know she's from a law firm.
I'm very skeptical. There's no question.
I am too.
And that's good to have a healthy skepticism. Yeah. But so you somebody that has been working with her. My problem for folks, if you just now joining us with Cindy Gillespie, is where projects that she has worked on. Mitt Romney Care, which was the basis for Obamacare. The lobbying firm she comes from, Denton's, which is an international lobbying firm. I kind of feel like she's here on assignment, but
Well,
let us know.
Let's assume she is.
Right. Okay.
If we have a good outcome, that's a good thing.
I would agree if the outcome is good.
Right.
So tell us what direction this is all headed right now. I mean, there's nobody really entertaining the idea anymore that we're going to end Medicaid expansion, unless, of course, the federal government gets into gear again.
Sure. Well, we could see legislation on that. I haven't seen it come up yet, but we could have legislation. But what Director Gillespie and through the governing collaboration with the governor's office, I'm sure, is working on some things to reduce the number of people. We're on the roll. We're moving from 138% to 100%. And there's nothing final until it's final, but most likely that will get us back in the neighborhood of the original projections of the program. We originally did this in 2013, and back then we had some projections out there that
215,000 people.
Well,
then 225, then 250, but yeah.
So there've been several projections out there, but the goal is to get us back in that neighborhood, and so we go from 100 to 100 and. From 138 to 100%, that's going to reduce that considerably. She's put in a lot of work on the work requirement that will be out there. And again, nothing is final until the federal government approves it. But I've seen some of the documents that we're working with now that are really encouraging for me. And although it may not go as far as I want it to go, we're moving in the right direction. So this conversation kind of started out about, what would I be willing to support in trading my vote? I want us to get moving in a better, more conservative direction. So if this legislation comes out that it does decrease the number, if there really are some true work requirements out there, while taking in consideration the obligation that we have to help the most needy, that can be a good thing. And we need to start moving in that direction, and we haven't for several years.
You're exactly right about that. Do you think, here's my question, let's say, this all gets approved and this all goes forward. My question has been, will there, because it's a part-time work requirement, because if you work 40 hours a week at minimum wage, I believe you're going to make too much money to qualify for the program, or at least, but so will there be anybody who doesn't work that gets kicked off the program? And I know there's steps that they say, you've got to do this. You've got to fail to meet the requirements, I think, for 3 months or 2 months. I've heard a couple different things. Nothing really concrete. But I guess that, to me, will be the proof in the pudding. After it all happens, let's see a list how many people actually didn't work and were removed from the program, because that'll be how you know if it actually is working.
Yeah, and that's the data.
Yeah,
that's the data we need.
Yeah.
But in we've gone through some other Medicaid reform issues. They're trying to change some of the programs that my company is involved in with developmental disabilities and with behavioral health. We're cutting, I think, pretty close to $70 million, and those cuts are available and able, and we can do those if we'll kind of change the business model, and we can continue to provide services to the people that are most needy. Kind of take it, it's similar to the work requirement. Who are some of the people that are not as needy? Here's how much money we have to spend. So how do we focus those resources to the people most in need? And we're trimming that, and it's been done. Those manuals passed. I supported them. I think many of them take effect October 1. So we're moving in the right direction on a lot of these things. Is it as far as we want to go? No. But we've got an election coming up. I encourage your listeners to find conservative legislators, support them. Who was it that said the primaries are going to be where the real election is now?
Yeah, the primaries are the general election now, essentially, in Arkansas, because everybody runs a Republican. Speaking of Republicans, I want to ask you, we're going to take a break. I want to come back with State Representative Dan Sullivan. I want to ask a little bit about the Republican brand, where it stands today in the state of Arkansas. We're with State Representative Dan Sullivan. He has announced he is seeking re-election for his seat, District 53. We'll be back in just a moment, folks. Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We're joined by Dan Sullivan. He has announced that he is running for re-election for his district, House District 53. State Representative Sullivan, thanks again for being with us.
Yeah, glad to. And by the way, I'll be renewing my all my ads on this station. I get a lot of people that tell them they hear my ads on the Paul Harrell radio show.
Hey, well,
and it's a good thing.
Well, we are an equal opportunity capitalists.
There
here.
you go.
So, but yeah, absolutely. And the content, I will say the quotes and stuff, the content you're at is really, I really enjoy them. Listening to them, and everything
they're
else.
about core values.
Yeah,
and they're
principles.
about liberty, and they're about freedom, and they're about our nation, and that's where we are where we need to get back to.
Yeah. All right, I mentioned I wanted to talk in the second part of the interview just about the Republican brand right now and where it stands. So policy-wise, we talked about this when you came on and did your impression of the session, but policy-wise, I mean, we're looking at revenue increases left and right, attempted revenue increases, some successful, some not. We're spending too much money over and over and over, and so a lot of this is on the governor and everything else. It's also on a legislature that I think maybe is a little bit more loyal to the Republican R in front of his name and the power. I don't think you're one of those guys, clearly, because
Thank you.
If you look at, if you would just look at, look where you came in the the CFC scorecard and everything else. But let's talk about Jake Files for a second. Here's a guy.
Well, let me talk about the brand just for a second.
Okay, all right.
Just,
well, this ties in with the brand.
Okay, we'll come back. But just in perspective, when there were, 10 Republicans in the House, our brand was pretty tight.
Yeah.
As we have, 74, 75, your brand is diffused a little bit.
More opportunity for people to mess up.
That's just part of natural. And we all know that we have people that were Democrats that just changed parties just to be a part of the Republican Party so they could get elected. That's clear. So, what our brand is, we just need, again, it's all about the primary elections. We need voters to turn out and elect conservative Republicans.
Yeah, whoever they may be.
Whoever they may be.
Okay, well, so on that, though, we have the party of moral clarity, supposedly, where we have Jake Files, who, since February, article after article, just not looking good. Now we have him mentioned in the sworn FBI affidavit under penalty of perjury by this FBI agent. Forging bids, pocketing $26,000. We've got bank numbers, we've got check numbers, we've got exact amounts matching up, all of this stuff, and yet he doesn't resign. I do believe that he will resign. The politics of this are such that they don't want to have a special election and guarantee your colleague, State Representative Matt Pitch, gets to walk into the Senate. Now, I think that's wrong because I think the people of Fort Smith who are listening to us on KFPW, the Marshall right now, they're going to be denied representation in a fiscal session if this happens. And so, you go back and you look when Paul Bookout resigned, he did it just on the hint of not even the FBI, but an ethics investigation and a special prosecutor. And I just think this is really bad for the brand. I've called on him to resign. Mark Johnson yesterday from Pulaski County Republicans, he wasn't speaking on behalf of them, but he's the chair. He called for him to resign. Just what are your thoughts? And does this hurt the supposed moral superior Republican Party? Does it hurt the brand?
Yeah, I don't know how morally superior we are when you look down throughout the history and what's going on. I don't know we can necessarily claim that, but we hope to. This certainly, events like this certainly don't help that. But I think it's incumbent on anyone in political office, if they're guilty, they resign. Not just of minor things, but when you have some major infractions go on, and if you're guilty, that's your obligation. It's the obligation of his constituents, or my constituents, if I were in that position, for them to reach out to their representative, be it senator or on the House, and let the local voter know how they feel about the person that represents them.
Yeah.
As you know, I was under a lot of scrutiny these last few months, under some degree of pressure, and I know how the media can spin things. I know how there's information that's not out there.
Like 30 seconds.
That nobody goes to. But again, I think if you're guilty, you resign. Otherwise, until you're proven guilty, you're innocent.
Yeah, well, I certainly can appreciate that. And I like what you said about how it's up to the people of the district, because it certainly is. We do have the local paper in Fort Smith now calling for Jake Fall's resignation as well. But, to me, it's a mess. I think it hurts the Republican brand. State Representative Dan Sullivan, though, we're out of time. I appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Paul. Enjoy being here.
All right, folks, we are going to be right back with State Representative Mark Lowry. Don't go anywhere.